Alright, everybody, we should be live. Big thanks to our director of content, Josh Engelman, for in 30 seconds the tweet correctly. As we should be good to go now. Again, was originally going to take today off, only one game on the slate, but FanDuel and DraftKings both brought it pretty large with $350K and $400,000 tournaments, I think it is. Maybe it's $3 and $350, but $250,000 or so in the top two boxes, enough for me to still think it's worthwhile to get in here and give some takes. I do have a lot to talk about when it comes to both the game last night and the game tomorrow night by extension, but also the Spurs in Denver, and it's been a while going through the numbers and doing a pretty deep dive. I do think there are a couple edge points here. So while single game, really difficult to feel super confident, especially if you're putting in more than one lineup, I do think generally there is actually some advantage to be had here. So getting the tweet out there, letting a couple people file in, and then we will get underway. Shout out to my sister for a late entry into the Insult Me contest. It went pretty well, but I think she would have landed in the top 4 with her comment I think last night it came out where she said, even your kidneys don't like you. I have a pretty long history of kidney issues, so that one I thought was pretty damn amusing. Retweeting the link, and yeah, I'm optimistic we can make some money this evening. And there is the link. Someone's saying in chat that there is a pretty massive edge in those second half and fourth quarter contests. Yeah, people tend to people overreact to games that took place either 2 or 3 days ago. People really overreact to first halves that go a certain way, or overreact to foul trouble or anything. But that should be the link, and we should be going now. Let's see, a couple other things to talk about. So, yeah, last night was alternatingly very good and very bad. I said I would rather play Steph than Durant in tournaments at what I thought would be lower ownership, even with more of a differential than we had seen. I was right, the ownership was more split than I thought. Main contest on DK, where we tend to use as our standard barometer, you had in the mid 70s for Durant and in the mid 50s for Curry. So I still feel like that was the right decision, but it wasn't even close with the production. Durant very nearly doubled him up. That is 3 games in a row where Durant has just been, taking over after the first 2 games where he was obviously fairly laid back and more happy to distribute the ball. I'll go back and watch some more of this before tomorrow to try to figure out how much of that is an artifact of Cousins being out and having Bogut and Looney holding down the 5, and whether or not it's something I expect to continue again. But again, if the differential comes out tomorrow and we have Durant at 75% owned and Steph at 45% owned, and on FanDuel it's $1,000 extra. And again, there's the 2-game slate on FanDuel tonight, so you get to make some of those decisions right now. So a couple of things that went really well while we're waiting for people to come in. Spoke a lot about Lou Williams, who's probably my favorite play on the slate. That worked out. Just aren't a lot of guys with upside who on a 2-game slate are going to be 25-30% owned or what have you. His price was too low. You got the 50 burger out of him. That worked out really well. The Warriors didn't. I like Steph a little more than Durant. I said, in 100 lineups, I had 55 Steph and 45 Durant, so it was pretty close for me, but it was not close between the two of their production. I like Bogut. The last couple of games, he had been in serious foul trouble or fouled out, and it seemed like they were trying to run him out there for the high 20s in minutes. Not yesterday. He wasn't playing that well. Looney was playing very well. Again, I'll have to react to the prices and the ownership on those guys going forward, but that obviously didn't work out extremely well. A take I was really happy with was JaMychal Green. He only ended up playing 27 or 28 minutes, but that was a result of some severe foul trouble that came in. I had him ranked as a AA yesterday, and someone on the show asked why, and I said, perhaps irrationally, but I really think he could see a pile of minutes here. I have him projected for 27, I said, which is what he played. But he was going to play way more than that. I think he played 18 minutes in the first half, before getting, I think, his second, third, and fourth fouls at the beginning of the third quarter. They then brought him back in before the end of the third quarter because they were really trying to get him on the court, even with his 4 fouls. Like, he's a guy they want out there. He got his 5th foul, went out for a little while, came back in and got his 6th. So I don't know if he was going to get 36 minutes, but he got 18 in the first half, and he was going to get 33, 34, 35. So where he's still available today, yeah, I think that's still pretty stellar. Again, I don't think DraftKings has any 2-day content. FanDuel has those 2-day contests. He's still going to be pretty high owned, but that's still probably underselling him a little bit. I don't think people will appropriately appreciate the fact that, you know, not only did he go from 22 to 27 minutes, that was with fouling out. He was going to play 35 maybe. So this game, let's talk about tonight. Obviously applicable on both slates, so throwing out a lot of money there. Again, it's difficult for me to think that there is enough edge here to overcome the rake. So there are a couple things I really like, a couple things I really dislike, and we'll talk about these in depth. Normally, I don't go super deep stat, game-by-game shot type data, one-on-one matchups and all that stuff, because during the regular season, there's usually 2 to 3 hours of content that precede me that lists all that, and I feel it's my job to be different. And then in the playoffs, it's just a different rotation. It's a very small sample size when you're talking about just the playoffs, and a lot of the stats are so fraudulent that throwing out a bucket of stats, I think can be, unless really properly contextualized, which takes a lot of time, more misrepresentative than actually helpful. When we're looking at one game carrying so much of the interest here tonight, I'm actually going to go a little deeper into some of the stats and talk about what's happening. So this has been sort of 2 different series. For the first 3 games of the series, we had Will Barton starting. Those minutes, declined over the course of those 3 games. He'd been struggling offensively basically the entire series until Game 5, and is not a good defender. And Mike Malone, who's I think underrated as a coach, is fair to say, honestly appears to have. I had trouble detecting Popovich changes in Game 5, which I expected to see. The Spurs obviously took the first game. We're up 1-0. We're up 2-1, and I've now lost back-to-back games against Denver, and I haven't seen substantive changes out of the Spurs that I expected to see. And I've gone back and watched a significant amount of tape and really tried to figure out what adjustments were being made here. But again, Malone's adjustment was to start Torrey Craig, who had been playing minimally even single-digit minutes off the bench, shift Barton to a role in which I think he was always best suited, being spark, bench, scorer guy. And this is a team with, enough offensive action that it just made sense to make that matchup. Now, before the first 3 games of the series, I said I preferred DeMar DeRozan to LaMarcus Aldridge. I have him projected for a few points higher. The ownership and the prices are similar enough. I would go that way. And games 1, 2, and 3, DeMar DeRozan outscored LaMarcus Aldridge. With the shift in the starting lineup, which came out, I think, when we were live on air, I said, okay, that actually reverses it for me, making it a little better towards Aldridge, especially as he's now going to be lower on because he has been outscored by DeRozan 3 games in a row. And before Games 4 and Game 5, I said I prefer Aldridge. And Aldridge outscored DeRozan in Games 4 and Game 5. So that's gone very well according to plan. Everything's going to be reactive to ownership. And again, if you are a member at Awesemo.com right now, you can take a look and see we have pretty spiffy new single-game ownership Showdown thing showing both ownership and what the expected captaincy percentage is, which is really useful information. Again, I have no idea what sort of wizardry or sorcery is done in doing that, but pretty nifty stuff, especially even getting into the postseason, spending the time to put out new products. Proud of the product team, Eddie Lai and all the other guys here at Awesemo. Pretty impressed by that. So, the best defender on the Nuggets this series, pretty demonstrably, everybody have a drink, has been Gary Harris by a really significant amount. When you look at, and we'll get down and break into the data, player by player, all the guys he's guarding, he's shutting people the hell down. And again, I enjoy watching video, and I enjoy looking at stats, and my favorite thing is using one to validate the other. So, watching those games, I was like, Gary Harris, who spent a lot of the year injured, and we had, a step forward for Yogic and Jamal Murray, and so his offense sort of went undersung this season, and dealing with injuries wasn't 100% a lot of the year. He is riding people on defense right now, and it's really bearing itself out in the numbers, and we'll get into that in a second. But for the early part of this series, basically Derek White was guarded by Jamal Murray and was having lots of success. The usage wasn't always there, so we only had the one superlative fantasy game where he put up basically his career best game and 60 fantasy points or some such, but was really efficient through that, and I'll take a second and quantify this. So if we look at, we'll take a look at this. So let's look at Derek White. In the entire series, he has been guarded by Jamal Murray for 133 possessions. Let me dictate exactly what that means. That are possessions in which Jamal Murray was the player closest to him defending him for the majority of seconds. So it isn't a perfect stat, but again, unlike one of the difficulties of statistics in basketball is unlike baseball and football, which have static positions where like resets, and you can say, okay, this is everything. Like there's a pitch in baseball, and then everything resets, and then you have, okay, 2 on, 2 out, man on first, man on third, what have you. And it's very easy to come up with statistics. Basketball and hockey and soccer, football are a maelstrom. So trying to quantify things or reduce things to an integer is difficult. But anyhow, for the purpose of this sample, taken from NBA.com, this is all public information. I'm not delving into anywhere here. A possession is considered defended by a guy in the event that they spend the most time on that player over the course of the possession, which I believe is determined after the ball clears half court. Jamal Murray was the number 1 defender on Derek White for more than half the possessions in the series. He was on him almost the entirety of games 1, 2, and 3 when Derek White was on the court, and guarded him for 133 possessions. Derek White scored 52 points, had 7 assists, and shot 23 of 31 from the field. Now, his nuts game, he shot, I believe it was 15 of 21, so if we pull that game out, he shot 8 of 10 when guarded by Jamal Murray. That's very effective, obviously, on both those samples. 8 out of 10, pretty small, but still 80% from the field for Derek White, who isn't the world's highest field goal percentage guy. That's really significant. And 15 for 21, again, that's 5/7, so a little over 70% of the time. That was an extremely good matchup for him, and if I went through this all the way, you would see that everyone guarded by any of the guys I'm going to list here had the most success when they were guarded by Jamal Murray. He's been guarded by Gary Harris 59 possessions. So just a touch over 40% of those guarded by Jamal Murray. In those 59 possessions, he's taken 6 shots. He only made 1 of them. So again, ratio-wise, he was taking 2.5 times as many shots when guarded by Jamal Murray as opposed to guarded by Gary Harris. And he was converting on, obviously, a much higher percentage of them. Now, 1 for 6 is significantly, that's obviously an incredibly minor sample size. But no matter who you look at the matchups, Gary Harris was the toughest defender. And I'll give you an example. Let's pivot over to, let me look at DeMar DeRozan. So let's look at DeMar DeRozan for the entire series. I was breaking it down game by game, so I got to swap the dates and go back to the full series. So let's run it here. DeMar DeRozan. Okay, DeMar DeRozan, when guarded by Paul Millsap primarily, which obviously is a switch they like, shot 3 of 4 from the field. When guarded by Jamal Murray, which is only 21 possessions, shot 3 of 4 from the field, and had a couple of assists. When guarded by Malik Beasley, shot 3 of 8. When guarded by Will Barton, shot 6 of 9. When guarded by Torrey Craig, shot 13 of 27. When guarded by Gary Harris, shot 6 of 23. Was the only time that the team had a negative points differential, the only time that he had a personal player points negative differential. Gary Harris has been pretty substantially the best defender on this team. So this affects a number of guys in a number of different ways. We've got a lot to talk about here when it comes into Will Barton and his continued role versus Torrey Craig and everything else. But I think if I was playing tonight, I would play no Derek White. My rationale being Denver has won the last 2 games. They have done this largely with Gary Harris sitting on Derek White, making him incredibly inefficient. He hasn't been incredibly good as a distributor. He's just been generally bad. The ownership is still high enough on him. He's not that much less than Jamal Murray, which crazy for me. I think there's less upside, less floor. He's not that much more expensive. I would risk it. He would need to, A, pick up a ton of usage, which, again, doesn't make sense. There are guys like DeMar DeRozan is guarded by Torrey Craig, and that's not a great matchup, and it's a far worse matchup than Will Barton. My larger concern with him is, again, he's been very successful against Torrey Craig, so I still think the upside is there. I'm fine having some DeRozan. I like Aldridge more. I think these changes on both sides of the ball lead to more of an Aldridge presence, which is what I said before Games 4 and Games 5. But my issue with DeRozan is that I don't think he can get his. It's that I think it's now substantially easier for Aldridge to get his, and so just the ball goes there more. And you see that looking at number of shots taken per minute over those first 3 games, over the second and third games. If you just want to look at shots per game in games 1, 2, and 3, and again, this is a little bit of a fraudulent stat because the minutes aren't quite the same. But in the first 3 games of the series, DeRozan took like 17, 19, 20 shots. Those numbers might be off by 1 or 2. But he took more shots in all of games 1, 2, and 3 than he took in either game 4 or game 5. So that's the largest point of my concern. But I'm totally fine playing DeRozan because, again, he's done fine against Torrey Craig. He's been reasonably efficient. Foul trouble to Aldridge or foul trouble to someone on Denver. There's a number of ways he can still get there. Of course, Derek White can still get there. But you're going to need something weird to happen. Like, you're going to need him to, A, get the usage, and B, be efficient with it. And the price hasn't come down enough that, for me, again, if there's one skill I could have in DFS, it would be finding guys who have a real ability to fail or just overrun for that possibility. So for me, I probably would not play a single percentage of Derek White and hope he continues to struggle. Maybe he gets minutes yanked and pulled to Patty Mills. No reason to think that particularly happens. Mills has basically played 20 minutes, give or take a minute or 2 every game, but has dealt a little better with Gary Harris than Derek White has. And that's probably the largest single edge point I would have here. I personally would probably not play any Derek White. Is it still possible Derek White goes off and gets 50 or gets 60 again? Yes, obviously that's possible. But on a 1-game slate or on half of a 2-game slate, you're looking for any kind of edge, and there's still significant ownership there. And again, I don't think most people in general are aware of how shitty that has gone. So I would probably play 0 Derek White and use that as my way to differentiate. If I'm, MMEing and the field has whatever it is, 30, 40%, it's going to change by slate by site, I would probably run 0 and think, I think there's a very real chance he has a bad game. And even if things go his way, I still think you're looking at like 30 or 35, and I don't think it's real likely that he absolutely, kills you. But again, 3 games of the series. First game, 27. Second game, 23. Third game, went absolutely and completely off, 58. Significant offensive adjustments. Last 2 games, 20 and 20. In 28 and 22 minutes. So, yes, the price is down on a 1 or 2 game slate. In no conventional sense of the term would Derek White be out of play. He's a guy who's going to play 20-something, maybe 30-something minutes, has shown he has upside. So, in any sort of conventional analysis, I can't be like, you should play 0 Derek White. I don't feel strongly enough about it to say that, but I hope I've spent enough time on this one dude that you'll understand where I'm coming down. My way to attack slates like this, especially if I'm MMEing, is just like, I'm just gonna, make a stand here. I don't think that guy gets there. I'm gonna play none of that guy. The field will play 30, 40%. My random collections of guys will be better off than their random collections of guys. I still, for raw points, have LaMarcus Aldridge scheduled to score 3 or 4 points more than DeMar DeRozan. Looking at ownership, see, good segue there. Looking at our Showdown, we'll say DraftKings ownership right now. We have Aldridge higher than DeRozan. We have Aldridge at 66% owned and DeRozan at 54% owned. We have Aldridge at 20% captaincy and DeMar DeRozan at 12%. That differential is probably not quite as appropriate as I would like it to be. And I haven't taken the time to build lots of Showdown lineups and really investigate the various nuances of it. But I suspect I would still be under 54% DeMar DeRozan, and by extension, over 66% LaMarcus Aldridge. Let's see, other things to talk about. I still like Torrey Craig a lot. So if we get into Game 5, this was obviously a blowout. I think the Spurs ended up winning by 18, but past the start of the third quarter, the game was never really in contention again. Use that to briefly segue into the fact that when you're talking about blowout run here, due to just the way Denver runs its rotations all year, the third-team blowout squad does not get any real time. There's been a couple blowouts in the series, and you literally have seen, like a minute of Jared Vanderbilt and a minute of Hernan Gomez, and that third unit really doesn't get out there. Pop, in general, keep in mind this is an elimination game, but in general, much quicker to go to guys there. So this long way around of me saying, I really... Even let's say you predict a blowout here is what I'm saying. It's a single game slate. Some if you're MMEing amount of your exposure, or even if you're building a single lineup shoot based on the fact I think one of these teams absolutely whomps the shit out of the other one. Because that will happen some percentage of the time. I don't think it's incredibly likely in this matchup, but it's obviously a possibility and something that you should keep in mind. I still, if I'm building that lineup, really don't change my exposure for anyone on Denver. For San Antonio, they're quicker to go that way, even in their last game of the season. The first two guys I would look at there, as far as guys I'm pretty positive will be on the court in a massive blowout, and I expect to be most productive in order, would probably be Lonnie Walker, followed by Demo, Domantas Motiejūnas, back in the league. And that's you can look that up, but those would be the guys if you're building the. I think this turns into a massive beatdown by someone on someone else. I really can't add anyone beyond the standard bench guys of Monte Morris, Malik Beasley, Will Barton for Denver. For San Antonio, I don't think it is crazy to go to the third squad, but those would be the two guys on the third squad I think are most likely. The other guys who tend to be in the blowout run, that's a good question. It's usually Lonnie Walker the fourth, Domantas Motiejūnas, Quincy Pondexter, Dante Cunningham. I think Bellinelli finishes it. I will find one. It's a perfectly fair question. Let's take a look. Last game, that was a blowout. Davis Bertans. That's what it is. I screwed it up. Davis Bertans is the fifth. Well, let me confirm. In the blowout in the last game, the five guys on the court at the end were Cunningham, Modi, Quincy Pondexter. No, they brought Bellinelli back out at the end. Lonnie Walker. Bertans, when they were down, played more in the fourth quarter, but they actually did take him out, and it was Bellinelli who closed. So I actually had it right. But it wouldn't shock me if that was Bertans. That's going to have a lot to do with how they're doing, how their rotations are. So let's see. More things to talk about. Again, I was surprised by the lack of changes that I detected. I'll phrase it that way, because, again, I'm far from omniscient, and I'm far from Greg Popovich, and there may have been subtle things that I didn't notice. I was looking pretty closely at, defensive assignments and compared shots against guys game to game. Didn't really see a ton of difference from them between 3 and 4 and 5. There were not a ton of changes. I was saying before, and apparently someone on a podcast had the same idea, that if they could make a change if they were running the Spurs, they would probably play more Davis Bertans, and I agree with that. The big issue with the Spurs offense is just clustered. In the modern NBA, again, layups and three-pointers, and defending layups and three-pointers. And offensively, the Spurs just don't have enough going on outside the arc, so it's really hard when everything's so damn clustered in the lane. DeMar DeRozan is famously old school in his lack of willingness to take three-pointers. They jacked it up a little bit in his last year in Toronto, but every other year of his career, including this one, he just does not take three-pointers. LaMarcus Aldridge does not take three-pointers. He takes a couple, but very, very few. He's much more comfortable taking a 20-footer than a 24-footer, even for a point less. Jakob Poeltl, not going to be taking any. And, then you have Derek White, who can take some, but is not a brilliant shooter from that range, and, again, is dealing with a difficult assignment. So, for guys with any degree of, intrepidity at shooting three-pointers, you got Bryn Forbes out there trying to do the job for you. That's tough, and so you just have a whole lot of shit going on in the middle. You put Davis Bertans out there instead of probably Jakob Poeltl would be how you would do it, and again, they're not doing this, they're not starting with this, so this is me largely talking out of my ass and isn't incredibly relevant, but they could move to it, a little more off the bench. You just space the floor a little bit. A guy has to be the hell out of the middle guarding Davis Bertans at all times, who's freakishly accurate. He's in that Joe Harris range of three-pointing efficiency. That clears up the lane. Aldridge operates a little better. DeRozan has more room to drive. He just makes everyone else better. Even if this happened, I'm not super into him hitting some sort of super upside, so I'd have to sit here and think for a while to say whether or not I determined him or preferred him or Modi Yunus or Lonnie Walker in the tournament. Like, it'd be close. He's in that range of, it's a one-game slate, basically, so dudes in play, but is where I come down, but there's something else interesting to talk about there. I still like Rudy Gay in tournaments. There is obviously some upside there. Obviously didn't see a lot of minutes last game, but a lot of people have been nailed to the bench last couple games for this team. He has not shot incredibly well, but he is another guy if he can. I really like Rudy Gay as a player. He had the Achilles injury. He's been traded from team to team. He's never been quite recently the focal piece of an offense. But he's excellent on both ends of the court when he is healthy. I'm a Rudy Gay stan, admittedly. And the price, especially on FanDuel or two small forwards, is low enough that I'm not shocked to see a ceiling game out of him. He can accrue those defensive stats. So I still like taking shots on Rudy Gay, but the appropriate caveat is his most frequent minutes counterpart, negative corollary, is Jakob Poeltl, who is playing extremely well and is going to be extremely chalky. But it is very weird in that, your pivots to Jakob Poeltl are Rudy Gay and then Davis Bertans, kind of. It's a little weird. Other things, I'm doing the best I can. You try filling an hour talking about Game 6 of a series with one game. I still like Malik Beasley. So we should talk about the Nuggets bench a little bit. So going into this last game, we finally got a significant number of minutes out of Will Barton off the bench, and obviously your concern there is how much of that is an artifact of the blowout or not. Again, they won this game by 18. Their closing blowout squad, by the way, was Juancho. Juancho came on and only played the last 6 minutes of the game. But the other guys who closed the game were Malik Beasley, who ended with 27 minutes, Mason Plumlee, who ended with 17 minutes, Monte Morris, who ended with 24 minutes, and Will Barton, who ended with 28 minutes. Now, your concern with playing Will Barton is, A, in a close game, you don't think that they're likely down the stretch to bench Torrey Craig for him. Clearly, the switch to Torrey Craig has been fundamental in their success. They've won the last 2 games since the switch. It would be odd for him to not be on the court in crunch time in a close game. So, and the guy he's generally going to replace at this point is going to be Will Barton. They're not taking Jamal Murray off. They're not taking Yogic off. They're not taking Gary Harris off. There's this weird world in which they go super small and take Paul Millsap off, who's obviously struggled. I don't think that's impossible. But most likely, I think, in a close game in the fourth quarter, I'll say, and this is something, who did we just talk about in similar terms? There was someone on yesterday's slate where I was talking about, I think he's back in there in the fourth quarter because of this, and there was I can't remember. It's a similar situation where I imagine this reverses itself back. I think it is more likely than not, if this game stays close, that in the fourth quarter, Will Barton is still sitting on the bench. I'll go like 70-30. And I said the same thing about someone yesterday, 80-20, and I was right. And I can't remember who it is, and I guess it doesn't matter. But there is some chance. Now, a couple things were going on here. Torrey Craig had some foul trouble. That was relevant. Will Barton was playing very, very well, and they won by 18. So there's some gray area here. But my inclination is that it is unlikely you get 28 minutes out of Will Barton again under almost any circumstances. And again, not an ideal matchup. I suppose brief mention of the fact that on the two-game slate on FanDuel, the second game is obviously a more appealing fantasy one. They've priced Steph down a lot. Michael Green is well too cheap for me. I have him now projected 33 minutes for that final game. I'm sorry, not for that final game. For that game 6. I should stop selling the Clippers short. I didn't think they'd get a game. They've got 2 now, so I don't mean to be disrespectful. They deserve a lot of credit for what they've managed to achieve. That it's interesting for me. There is a showdown lineup on DraftKings that to me seems to be the best showdown lineup, really significantly, with everything I've been looking at. So I'll announce that at 8:01. Since a couple people have mentioned it, and it's hard to give lineup advice without just giving an entire lineup. But the 6-man on DraftKings, there's one I'm looking at that just feels best for me. Other things. So Malik Beasley is still getting his time regardless, it seems. And I still like him as a guy who has plenty of upside. Doesn't really correlate that negatively with anyone, because no matter what's going on, Gary Harris plays his 37 minutes, you're still getting 26-28 out of Malik Beasley. Gary Harris sat the entire fourth quarter last game, you still got 27 out of Malik Beasley. Right. So, yeah. But in a blowout, you're obviously more excited about Mason Plumlee. Keep in mind, everyone's playing for everything at this point. So, at least for Denver, Popovich has sort of a mad genius thing going for him. If there's one coach in the league who I can see in a close elimination game playing his starters 26 minutes and his bench guys 22 minutes, and again, it's never that evenly distributed, but you know what I mean, it'd be Popovich. Malone, I would expect to continue to see him really ramp up the minutes. And again, if you want to talk about Yogic, one of the reasons I like Yogic tonight is Yogic didn't play in the fourth quarter of the last game. He played just a few seconds under 33 minutes. Okay? So he played 33 of the first 36 minutes of that game. I'm guessing he sits another 3 at the start of the fourth quarter, but he was going to play 42 minutes. I feel pretty safe in saying, if that game stays close. So, yeah. And that should factor into your math as far as how heavily you're going to lean on guys. Who is the best captain choice from each of Denver and San Antonio tonight on DraftKings? This is an interesting, larger strategic conversation when it comes to captaincy on DraftKings as opposed to FanDuel. FanDuel, it's just, your captain or MVP or whatever the top spot is gets just double fantasy points, and there's no adjustment to their salary. For that reason, usually you're going to put Jokic in as the captain or as the MVP the vast majority of the time, because there's no penalty for doing so, and it's only wrong if someone raw points outscores Jokic, which is possible, but Jokic is your top scorer on this slate in this game more than any other player. Second for me would be probably Aldridge and then Murray as the 1, 2, 3 on FanDuel, who I'd really consider putting in that spot. You can put DeRozan in there. That works too. But anyone other than those 4 guys being the highest scorer seems unlikely. That being said, it was Derek White in Game 3. In fairness, and again, we've spent more than enough time on Derek White, but other things if you have specific questions about guy guarded by who, how many possessions, and what games, you can send me that, and I'll pull it up. Again, this is available on NBA.com. It's a little bit deep in there. You got to know your way around the site, but sure, we should have time for me to field those questions. You threw me off. Salaries to expensive guys and cheap guys. If someone goes off, both relative to his salary and relative to other players, it is less likely value is the correct play. So talking about the corollary, let's assume that DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge and Jokic all tie for the highest scorer on the slate with around 45 or 50 fantasy points. Your best captain is probably the best value guy. So if it was Patty Mills who went for 28 or 42 as the captain at his price, then he was probably the best captain. If it was Jakob Poeltl who went for 31 or 46 and a half as the captain, then he was probably the best value guy if you got that sort of even distribution. If Jokic goes for 70 and no one else gets 50, then you want Jokic to be your captain. That's sort of the way that breaks down. And obviously there are many colors of the rainbow, shades of gray, different outcomes anywhere in between, but that's sort of the thing you're thinking here. So for that reason, answering your question of who's your favorite captain on each team, it's going to be Jokic for me on DK. Is 1 game out of 5 in this series, I want to say, where he didn't put up 50 fantasy points. I expect the minutes to trend up, and so you're looking at potentially many, many more minutes. And I just think it's likely he's the highest scorer by enough that he's my favorite captain, period. I would probably be happiest running Jokic out there. For the Spurs, again, I would pick Aldridge over DeRozan. He will be more popular than DeRozan, but to me, not by quite enough of a differential for their terms of success. And again, talking about DeRozan, I just think the shot volume is down a little bit, and it's a little easier for Aldridge, who does a little better against Millsap, and the existence of Craig out on the perimeter instead of Barton just involves the ball getting dumped down a little bit more. So you're getting a couple extra shots out of Aldridge and a couple fewer shots out of DeRozan, and for that reason, that's sort of how that comes in. But, I'd be legitimately surprised if you got giant Derek White game again. I'm not really that surprised if you got DeRozan game. I would say Aldridge outscores DeRozan 60% of the time. 60-40, I would say something like that. But again, on a 1-game sample, I'm not surprised if you get bad Aldridge. It just takes a couple fouls against, Let's see, other things. So yeah, I still really like Torrey Craig. I think the most likely outcome here, especially if there is no foul trouble, which is something he dealt with pretty significantly in that last game. Sorry, I'm checking something. I think your more likely outcome is him getting into the 30x minutes again. Murray, haven't talked about him much somehow, it seems. Yeah. I definitely want him if I don't have Jokic. There is some negative correlation between those two guys. Not enough so that it's not that different from Curry and Durant yesterday, although yesterday obviously you wanted Durant and not Curry. But there's a real chance they both get there. They're most likely to be, the horses doing the most here. I do like his matchup. Reading through transcripts and stuff, it seems like he wants to remain aggressive, and Coach Malone wants him to remain aggressive. So I like Murray generally. I like Murray much more than Derek White, obviously, and the pricing difference between them isn't enough to compensate for that, and the ownership differential isn't enough for me to compensate for the amount I like Murray more than I like Derek White. So, I like Jamal Murray quite a bit. I just don't have, I guess, any really different takes on him than I have for the entire series. So I think the reason I didn't address him much wasn't so much a lack of interest as a lack of any update to the conversation that I've been talking about for the last 2 weeks when talking about these two teams. But I like Jamal Murray just fine. He is, on the short list of guys who can go off here in order is probably Jokic, Aldridge, DeRozan, Murray, and then you have to really look at it for a while and figure out who's going to get there next. But yeah, I didn't mean my lack of attention. As I often say to my wife, I don't mean for my lack of attention to connote a lack of affection. I've never said that to my wife, but I'm going to keep that one in mind in case I need one someday. For I am a busy man. Let's see, 40 minutes into the show talking about one game. Earning my money. Let's see. Other things. Yeah, if you're just joining us, a couple of people said, I missed the beginning. If you missed the beginning, you can, again, on YouTube, always fast forward through things. And more accurately, you can play it faster, both on mobile and on a desktop, where you can listen to me at 1.5 speed if you thought I spoke fast now. What is your take on Millsap? Yeah, it's tough. It is a bad matchup for him. They've played 9 times this year. I believe we have had one good Millsap game. It is a difficult matchup for him, but it's not unlike Joe Ingles yesterday. Would be the most direct corollary I can think of. Had been struggling, had been having trouble on the defensive end of the court, had been having the minutes come down in favor of some more effective bench players because of that. But you have every chance that you get the same outcome you got out of Joe Ingles yesterday, which is goes out, plays well, gets his minutes back, and when you play well in 30 whatever minutes as opposed to badly in 20 whatever minutes, yeah, your score really, really jumps. So, not from any raw point sense a big fan of Paul Millsap, but he's very similar to Ingles yesterday, and like that's what you are hoping for. Probably prefer it a little bit on FanDuel due to the steals and blocks, which would be a part of any sort of ceiling game there. What's your take on Monte Morris? I am in a single lineup. I'm going to try to play Malik Beasley again. The minutes I'm expecting more there. Monte Morris is don't play him with Jamal Murray. Period. But if you're not playing Jamal Murray, I like him quite a bit in tournaments, and at that point I'd be close between him and Malik Beasley. Because if Jamal Murray, who has had kicked in the shin, turned an ankle, various problems times this year, misses time, like he's got lower body inconsistency, we'll call that, which as men reach a certain age, they get lower body inconsistency. Sorry, just having fun with. Yeah, Monte Morris would be the guy. Like they're not going to have Gary Harris play point. They're probably not going to have Will Barton play point, though not impossible that happens. But Monte Morris is very underrated this year. His assist to turnover ratio has been legendary, and I don't use that word lightly. But in general raw points, I'm going to prefer Malik Beasley because of the oncoming of Torrey Craig and the public's lack of understanding of how that really doesn't affect Malik Beasley. I'll put it that way. His ownership is already a little lower than it should be, that I don't think it's worth going for the extra discount to go from Malik Beasley, who I have at 27 minutes, to Monte Morris, who I have at 20 minutes. And I think there is an upside or a downside well below that where, Jamal Murray is playing well and this is the closeout game, and so they're just running everyone out there dare infinite minutes, and he plays 11 minutes. I think it's a very real possibility. So thoughts on Marco at 2,600? Again, I'm not super acquainted. I mean, I have the pricing up in front of me. Marco at 2,600. I will take your question. Is there anyone under Marco at 2,600 who I would be interested in playing in a tournament? I imagine Lonnie Walker at 1,000 is my favorite 1,000 guy. He is. I would rather play Bellinelli at 26 than Bertans at 22 for any sort of raw points situation. That number is very low. I would rather play Patty Mills at 3K than Bellinelli at 26 if you have that money available. The reason being, you're looking for a way these guys get a lot of extra minutes. There are a number of guys who can do what Bellinelli does for this team. If they end up putting in Bertans instead, that kind of works out. If they end up putting in Lonnie Walker and shifting someone over, that kind of works out. If something, if Derek White gets hurt or foul trouble or just continues to suck, he hasn't been good the last couple games because Gary Harris is eating his lunch, the guy they put in to say, okay, can you do better in this spot is Patty Mills. So I like Bellinelli more than Bertans. I like Mills more than Bellinelli because of those three guys, he's the one who I think could see 30 minutes. I don't think that's likely, but it's double-digit likelihood. Like there's a 10, 15, 20% chance that's just like, yeah, Derek White, Pop is quick to pull the leash, obviously has a lot of trust with Patty Mills and just goes like, yeah, you're not getting it done the third game in a row, our season is on the line. There's the pine. And that rhymed. Big overlay on Yahoo. I will take a look at it. Again, nothing I have ever said or will say is as valuable for you as overlay. That kind of rhymed too. Just on a freaking rhyming spree here. What do I got? The main event on Yahoo. I don't know about big overlay. The main event on Yahoo. Let me see how many multi-entry spots it is. If it's 10, multi-entry max 9. Really? Every contest I looked at all year was max 10. This one is max 9. Because I guess they don't want it to be larger than 1%. It's 909. Anyhow, the largest contest on Yahoo is, if I'm seeing this correctly, maybe the two-man. Let's go with all guaranteed. Yeah, the largest contest is 655 out of 909 right now. It's $10 entry, pays out $8,000. So 909 would rake rather 10-12%. Right now it's taking in $6,550 and paying out $8,000. So it's significant overlay. And big overlay is like holy shit, 30% or whatever. But it has multi-entry 9 with 12 minutes to go. I suspect some sharky people will flood in here. I do think it'll overlay, but I have a feeling it's going to have, I'll throw out my projection of 750 entries out of those 909. So it'll take in 7,500 and pay out $8,000, and that's really, really significant. The contests on FanDuel and DraftKings, I presume, will fill, and for that reason, raking 15% versus raking -5% is, again, much more important than anything I have to say, as long as you're playing players who are actually stepping on the court. So yes, if you're playing, especially low volume or medium volume, getting your $90 into that tournament is probably more valuable than getting your $90 in on FanDuel or DraftKings, regardless of your level of comfort necessarily. 2-game slate on Yahoo Cash: Jokic, Gary Harris, and Pat Beverly, or LaMarcus Aldridge, Jamal Murray, and Derek White. White can be replaced by Pat Beverly. I would play Pat Beverly over Derek White for the same price right now. I really would. I talked a lot about Pat Beverly last night, and he had a woefully absent fourth quarter and whatever, and still ended with 40 at his whatever. I have not done projections for tomorrow, but I'm going to have Pat Beverly well higher than Derek White tonight. I have Derek White tonight at 24 fantasy points. I imagine I will have Pat Beverly at 30. So that would make your question Jokic, Harris, Beverly, or LaMarcus Aldridge, Jamal, Beverly in cash. So Jokic and Jokic and Harris, or Aldridge and Jamal Murray in cash. I have Jokic and Harris for less than a point more using DraftKings scoring, and they're roughly even on the peripheral. So I very slightly prefer Jokic, Harris, Pat Beverly, but it's literally a coin flip. Well, not literally a coin flip, but really, really, really close to a coin flip. Again, checking, do I have tweet questions? No? Okay. So look at that. I'm going to be honest. I think that was pretty good for 50 minutes on one game. I feel good about it. Thoughts on Forbes? Fine. FanDuel, I think I saw he was 4K, where he's droppable. I'm obviously a pretty big fan there because you expose yourself to his limited upside, but present. Again, not super hard for me to imagine in a world where Derek White is struggling significantly, he's getting a cookie. So, DraftKings, Yahoo, pretty ambivalent. It's, 1 game or 2 game slate. He's probably going to play his 30 minutes. That puts him in play. He is the 5th most interesting guy from any sort of, upside perspective on that team. But I'm fine with any exposure there. And on FanDuel, where he's 4K, I legit like him, I would say. Other questions. What do you think about playing Murray with Jokic as captain? I think it's fine. I suspect in one lineup, and spoiler for what I thought was the best possible DK lineup, I have that. So there's your answer in what I deemed to be the best possible 6-man lineup on DraftKings, which I almost guarantee more than one of you will have. So it seems pretty clearly the best lineup to me. I have Jokic as the captain and Murray in the utility spot. So no, there's no apology. Please, if you ask a question and I don't, especially as time starts to run out on the show, either Twitter audience or premium Slack, and I don't answer it within 5, 6, 7 minutes, run it out there a second time. Don't do it 6 times, but a second time is absolutely fine as we get close to running out of time. What do I think about Craig as captain? Yeah, I'm fine with it. If I'm going to go with value captain, I'm probably a little more excited about Pirtle. But obviously we saw the big, Torrey Craig game. Now again, he's not an offensive guy. Doesn't take a lot of shots. Didn't take a lot of shots last game. Didn't take a lot of shots the game before that. Just happened to make a lot of them. He was 7 of 9 from the field and 5 of 7 from 3. So I think even points per dollar, I'm a little more excited for Captain Pirtle than Captain Craig, but I think Captain Craig is absolutely in play. Just guessing here, because I really need to tinker with it. Like, I need to feel it and what opens up what for whom. I imagine the order in which I would have captains would be something like Jokic, Aldridge, Pirtle, Murray, Craig DeRozan. Something like that, but I'm fine with Captain Craig. Can you play Jokic and Plumlee together? Plumlee is the minimum on FanDuel Showdown. In that context, for that reason, sure. But again, you put a gun to my head right now and said over under 10 minutes for Plumlee, I think I'm taking the under. I'm not kidding. So you can do it because he's a guy who gets big fantasy upside, but and I want to make sure I'm getting this correctly. I'm pretty sure he played, in the first half, he played, of the last game before the blowout, he played the final 3 minutes of the first quarter and the first minute 47 of the second quarter. So, yeah, he played 4 minutes and 48 seconds, give or take a couple seconds. And I would think the minutes might even go up a little bit here for Jokic. If that game, now he played the entire fourth quarter because Jokic didn't play, but over under 10 minutes, I mean, I'll give him 10. 10's my number. Under 12, absolutely. Over under 10, I really need to look at for a while and go back and review some Game 7 Mike Malone. Wait, there isn't any. But go back and review some Mike Malone things. But, just be aware, there is a perilously low floor in minutes and projections for Mason Plumlee. And I'm a huge fan of playing him in the few lineups in which I don't have Jokic, because if Jokic turns an ankle or gets 3 fouls in 7 minutes, you can get a goddamn Plumlee game. But so there is a very real ceiling thing, but things can need to go a little funny. Marco and DDR versus Beasley and Murray. I will take Beasley and Murray. Whether it's tin or bronze. Sorry. Little Frank Baum got in my head there. 5 minutes, kiddies. 5 minutes. 5. See how that Yahoo overlay is going? Now 687 out of 909. I said I thought 750 would be the final number. It's gonna come down to the wire. But yes, currently taking in 6,870, 6,880, paying out $8,000. But yeah, that is very much worth the money. It should be worth pointing out that I'm a little less excited than that because it is a bit of a Shark Tank there. Overlay, summons the sharks and they eat the fish, and you have a lot of sharks left playing more entries and more lineups. So the average competitor, in my opinion, on Yahoo is significantly better than the average competitor on FanDuel or DraftKings, for what it's worth. I don't know, let's look for some overlay. After all, could you briefly explain the advantages to having an overlay? If that site fills, Yahoo will take in $9,090 and pay out $8,000, meaning for every dollar you invest, you have equity at the time the slate locks of 88 cents. If it runs where I projected to, instead of having 88 cents in equity per dollar invested, you would have $1.08, which is significantly better. That's the advantage to having overlay. Overlay just means they are not covering a guarantee. It should be noticed the term is misused frequently. If it has 750 out of 909 entries, that's overlay of $500. They took in $7,500 and overlaid $500. That's the amount the site pays that they are not compensated for. If they have 850 out of 909 entries, then the site did not overlay, but it did not charge full rake. They would have charged about half the rake. How do I feel about Rudy Gay? With both hands, he's taller than me, so probably yeah, he's fine. I'm fine with Rudy Gay in tournaments. He can shoot better. He can get there. He can also end up playing fewer minutes. He's, I think, appropriately priced and owned. Do you play Aldridge or DDR with Jokic and Murray on DK? I would play Aldridge. Again, I think the price and the ownership slightly make him more preferable for me. Nothing massive. I'm not there like, oh my god, none of the DDR. Again, I would be interested in the full fade on Derek White. for, the reasons previously stated. But, yeah. Aldridge and DDR, I still have fairly close with my expectancy of them doing anything particularly super. Lol, Gay or Harris on DraftKings? Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm going to take a real quick scream at our ownership for you here. We have Gary Harris, 27%, Rudy Gay, 36%. At that point, I would go with Gary Harris. And again, this ownership is going to be, I would presume, a little bit sketchy, and that's no fault of these guys whatsoever. This is one of the most difficult things to project, I would think, in the universe. Baseball's going full storm. The staff is looking at other things, and now we are trying to figure out, overlay and captaincy on a single game slate. So be gentle if these are not perfectly accurate, but again, I'd be shocked if they weren't the most accurate ones you could find anywhere in the world. 1 minute and 30 seconds. And yeah, we'll look at all the ownership. That's the nice thing about single game slate show. All the ownership. We're going to look at all of it. We're going to know it all. We are coming down to it, friends and lovers. We are very nearly there. I'm excited to see the game start. It should be wonderful. Yahoo, 726, 35 seconds to go. I think I might just undersell it. It's going to be very close. Going to be very, very close. 727. Which, by the way, a great game of poker. If you play poker, 727 is the name of a poker game that I'm particularly fond of. You should try it. It's really good. 730. I think I oversold it. 735. I'm going to get this sucker pretty close to right on. $738. 741. See? There you go. Maths. Maths were good. Someone give me the final number if you are in that contest. My 750 was going to be very close. So I did 741 was the last I saw. Plumlee or Bertans FanDuel single game slate last roster spot was just sent to me. Yeah, that's neither of those strikes me as particularly brilliant. If you have Jokic, I would play Bertans, I suppose. If you don't have Jokic, it becomes Plumlee by a mile. All right, let's someone give me the final number in the premium Slack if you have a moment on that Yahoo contest. I want to see how close I got to right on. What do we got? What do we got? Things. FanDuel. Is anything entered here? Okay. My friend did not play on a one-game slate. I thought you were some kind of degenerate. 741. That was close. Appreciate the update. Hold on. I got one more account. I can try to see. Did you degen the one-game slate? 300K on FanDuel apparently filled. He did. Here we go. Ownership. Nikola Jokic, 77%. I would have thought higher. He has been the highest scoring player in every game but the Derek White game. FanDuel, you pretty much want the double points highest scoring player. Like on FanDuel, the percentage of the time, I'm talking out of my ass, I haven't studied this, that the guy who scores the most points on the slate shouldn't be your MVP has to be really, really small. Like it has to be like Giannis is playing and gets 62 and 4 other players got 50 for 2/3 of the salary. I can see it being like, okay, you should not have played Giannis at all. Because if you, again, there's no penalty for playing high price guy. Someone said Jokic 88% at captain. That can't be his percentage at captain. Is it? Is there a way to tell what percentage guys are at captain? I'm looking at Matt Turk in the premium slot. I didn't know if that was the case. Again, I don't, do not and cannot legally play. I didn't think there was a way to determine their captaincy ownership, only their gross ownership. You got Murray 38% at captain. See, that can't be right. You have Murray at captain. Murray is 38% owned, 34% at captain. You're hoping we have the same DK lineup. The DK lineup, I thought, was demonstrably the best lineup was Captain Yogic. Hold on, I screenshotted it. Captain Yogic. Here we go. Give me one by one here, Rainmaker. I'm letting you take over the show here. Here we go. Captain Yogic, give me a thumbs up. Or a 1 out of 1 or something. We're delayed 10 seconds, so this will be a little slow, but that's fine. Let's go, Rainmaker. I'm waiting on you. Captain Yogic, give me a thumbs up. Or a +1 or something here. Jokic 35%. 1 out of 1. Okay, good. LaMarcus Aldridge. Or a few people are doing it. Okay. Everyone do like 1 out of 1 or 2 out of 2 as we go through here. So Jokic player 1, Aldridge player 2. So do X out of Y. Okay, 2 out of 2. Very good. Player number 3, Jamal Murray. This is where I may lose some people. Three out of 3, 3 out of 3, 3 out of 3, 3 out of 3. Okay, here we go. Player number 4, Torrey Craig. Bet everyone will hold that one. Again, give me 4 out of 4 if you got it, 3 out of 4 if you don't. 4 out of 4, 4 out of 4, 4 out of 4, 4 out of 4. Player number 5, Jakob Poeltl. Five out of 5. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5. Player number 6, Malik Beasley. And our people wrote 5 out of 5, Beasley. The 6th one is tricky, and I think Beasley Rainmaker did get it. Toot toot. Yeah, y'all about to tie with 12,000 people to win $4. 6 out of 6. Oh my God, that's my lineup. Everyone's going. It's the best lineup. Like, it just... Now, let me rephrase that. If it's that damn chalky, like, now let's look at the ownership for this shit. I don't know if it's going to be the best lineup. What the hell is the biggest thing they had here? It's there, it's there, it's there. Where the hell is anything? 350, hey, win or stay home special. Let's look at the ownerships on these guys. It won't be that chalky because Malik Beasley, who I really did like for this reason, is by far the lowest owned guy in the lineup at 25%. The other guys are 50 on Poeltl, which is less than I expected, but the price is no longer as cheap as it was. 52 on Murray, 50 on Craig, 77 on Aldridge, and 88 on Jokic. So yeah, that's Malik Beasley, kids. Gay was 18%. I'm not surprised. Just hasn't had the game yet. We're 5 games in. Other lineup has been, yeah, we'll all tie with yeah, but you know, Beasley is your it's gonna be a Beasley night for you guys. You obviously could have changed out Beasley for any number of other guys. Someone's showing me a link. Does that show their captaincy ownership? Oh, look at percentage draft captaincy. That's really sexy. So you can click on the thing. Where the hell do I find that information? Am I in? That's really interesting. How do I... Is that a mobile? How the hell do you see the percentage captaincy? I don't see it here. I love it when I'm completely incapable of knowing these things. Where the hell's my phone? Maybe it's a mobile-only thing? I can't figure out how to find it on my desktop. The useful part of the show has ended. This is me now learning how to use a telephone, apparently. Yeah, it is cold in the basement. Good question. Yes, on mobile it's easy. I don't know if that information is available on desktop. That's pretty goddamn annoying. Okay, so let's break down. Okay, I'm not logged in on my phone. Okay, I can't do it on my phone. But that's very interesting. I will for future Showdown shows. Maybe we'll do this again tomorrow. Depends what kind of contest they're gonna throw out. that much. And if I have anything to say, like I figured there was a lot to talk about with Craig, DeRozan, Barton, Murray, Millsap, just the backcourts on those two teams, that it was worth hosting the show and hopefully worth the site to pay my salary. But if there's similarly, if I think I can fill an hour tomorrow, we'll do it again. So go Malik Beasley, I guess our pivot guy today, and fall directly on your face, Derek White. What's Derek White's ownership? I'm going to click around until I find somebody with that guy. That's got to be I'm not going to download it, but it's going to be significant. 24%. Okay. Slightly less than Malik Beasley. So people more off him than I thought he would be. Yeah, he was less than half Jamal Murray. So honestly, at that percentage, I still don't like it. I would still probably run 0 because, again, as I like to say, I think the struggle is real. But that number is very low. He is less than Patty Mills. Paul Millsap at 19%. I would probably want more of. That feels like a pretty nice price. All right. So there it is, my friends. Thanks again for your attention. Best of luck and bonne chance.